Welcome everyone to another episode of the Train Studio. I'm your host, Sean Morris. Tonight on the Train Studio I have for you a little tutorial. I'm going to be showing you how to do the icicle effects that I've done here on this building, as well as around the top here. For this tutorial we're going to be using a product called Water Effects. It's a Woodland Scenics product. It's a thick gel similar to heavy PVA. Except with the exception that it dries 100% clear, which a lot of them do, but it also stays quite malleable, so it's an easy product to work with, and it has a lot of working time, so you can really shape and make it look like the effects you're going for. In addition to the water effects, you're also going to need a piece of wax paper. It doesn't need to be very big, so this is sufficient here. You're going to need a knife, need a small paintbrush. I recommend having a toothpick or two handy, and that's basically all you're going to need for this. So what you want to do is you want to take your water effects. Like I said, it's really thick. You don't need to shake it up or anything. You need to cut off the top. And what you want to do is you want to lay down a small bead on your wax paper. Try to keep it as consistent as you can. It doesn't need to be very thick. I recommend actually that you keep it quite small. So I'm just laying out a bead. It's okay if you get some breaks in the bead, that's fine. That's just going to help you later. But if you can get long sections as well, like that one there, is quite sufficient. I like to lay down a couple beads at a time just because I want to make quite a few icicles for other buildings. If you get a little thick, that's fine because you can cut that later. We'll just take a little bit of time to figure out how thick and how big you want them. Certainly this works at many scales, but for Flames of War you want them to be quite small. So there we go. So I just laid those down. The next thing you want to do is you want to come in with your toothpick and you want to start grabbing the the water effects and just bringing it down. So basically I'm just bringing it down slightly. The further you bring it, the longer your icicles are going to be. So you're just going to go along and do each row. I'm just going to do all of these because I will use these later. So like I said, you just grab it and bring it down with your toothpick. If you get a little bit of buildup on your toothpick, just switch ends. You want to keep a fairly sharp point when you're doing this. Almost makes it look like little teeth. You can leave gaps if you want to have sections without icicles, but I recommend just pulling it all down because you can always just cut a gap in with your knife later. So what you're going to do is you're just going to keep going. You can do as many rows or as few rows as you want. Again, just bringing it down. I recommend as well, if you have some sections that are a little bit thick, if you want to go back in, you can just do that again. Hit each of the sections. That way if you had any gaps, you can kind of hit in between these. I usually do each row twice. Just gives me a really consistent look, and I get quite a few good looking icicles. Okay, if you get a build-up like that, just take that off your toothpick and just continue. So it's starting to look pretty good. Hopefully you guys can see that on the camera. There you go. So there's the icicles. Now they're going to actually dry perfectly clear, but I'm not going to do that on camera. So I'm just going to set that aside and bring in ones that I've already done. So here's some examples of ones that are already finished. And as you can see, they're looking just like ice now, and I've done them the exact same process. So what you want to do is you want to go ahead and lay those on your building. So this is a building here that I've actually started to work on. So you can see I got the snow effect, the flex paste built up there. And let's just have a look at this little section right here. So here's my snow buildup. So I'm going to anticipate that I may have a little bit of runoff happening there. So if I just gauge that, it's probably about 2 centimeters long. So I'm going to go to my wax paper. I'm going to find a section of icicles that I like, and I'm just going to use my knife, cut a little section here, and use my knife to pry that up. And what that does is it should peel right off the paper quite nicely. Hold that up. There we go. That should focus in. There we go. So there is the icicles that I'm using. Important to keep your flat edge on the back. That was the wax paper side. That's your gluing edge. Now, when I say glue, I don't actually recommend that you put it on with glue because sometimes you can have some interactions between this product and glue products. So what I recommend you do is on a little piece of scrap or even on your wax paper, take a little more of your flex paste, or take a little more of your water effect. Just put a little pile there, and that's going to actually act as your adhering agent. So I'm going to take my toothpick with some of the water effect on there, go to your area that you want to apply it, and just roll it right along. I use the rolling method just to get it off the toothpick, and that helps spread it out. So that's actually going to be my glue. And when it dries, it's actually going to look like the ice is built up along that edge. Then I'm going to grab my icicles that I've done, making sure I keep the flat edge. Oops. Pick that up. Okay. Once you get it, pick it up. And then I'm going to lay that, I'm just going to grab my paintbrush, this is what I use my paintbrush for, and I'm going to lay that right in along my building. It's going to take a little bit of maneuvering. You might want to use a knife or even your toothpick to kind of get it positioned exactly where you want it. If it's too long or not adhering as nicely as you'd like, you can always come back in with your water effect and add a little bit more to adhere it. So it takes a little bit of manipulation. Like I said, the product is very malleable, so it's pretty easy to move around. Mine doesn't want to seem to stay in place, but I think I got it just about into position. So there we go. And then that's what it looks like when it's in there. What I also recommend doing is filling in any gaps. You can do that with some additional water effects. So that's what I'm going to do here. And then run that right up onto the flex paste. Again, that's going to dry clear, so you're not really going to notice that. And then when you bring your snow effect in at the end, that's actually going to even tie that in even more. So just going to move that around so you guys can see. There you go. So you can see the icicles hanging down from the edge, and I think the ice effect is achieved rather well there. So that's a tutorial there, guys. So hopefully you enjoyed that. And you can just spread that out with your paintbrush, make it a little more consistent, and there you go. And before long, you're going to have a building that's looking a little more like this, and you're going to have your snow and your ice, and it's going to really look like it's a winter scene. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Thanks for